opportunity.
Tuwapigie ndugu zetu hawa makofi jameni kwa kutuzungumzia. Asante sana. Years ago, on a day like this, Kenya took its final step of the freedom struggle to become a sovereign republic. I am delighted to have the privilege of leading our nation in celebrating this milestone in our journey to national independence. According to the vision of our forefathers who fought for this country's freedom, independence was intended to bestow on us the gift of political as well as economic self-determination. This anniversary gives us the opportunity to gather as a family and reflect together on how we have fared over the course of 6 decades. It is clear that we have made undeniable progress on many fronts, and as a result, our nation has come a long way in the right direction. Before that first Jamhuri Day, Kenya's sovereignty was exercised by an unelected foreign and colonial power for the benefit of an occupying minority. We have since matured from a single-party state to a competitive, multi-party democracy and a devolved system of governance with robust checks and balances under the Constitution that was ratified by the people of Kenya in the year 2010. Along with the maturity of our democracy, Kenya's institutions of governance have evolved significantly. Parliament, for example, is now, more than ever, an independent, assertive organ of government with its own calendar and its own budget. As a result of this autonomy, party positions on important national issues are much more clearly defined, and whenever circumstances and the national interest demand, bipartisan engagement across the political divide is pursued in a structured manner. Proposals currently before Parliament on the enhancement of the autonomy of our county assemblies prove that our assemblies at the county level are also making encouraging progress in their maturation into independent watchdogs, policymakers, and representatives of people at our counties. Devolution is growing its roots deeper to connect with the soul and spirit of our nation. We have consistently allocated more resources and made them available on time, and supported measures to further empower county assemblies to become good stewards. Our political culture has also evolved considerably. We are now committed to making sure that at every election, our democratic competition is less about personalities and tribes and more about issues and the national interest. As a result, the last general election, which serves as a very solid beacon of this new direction, reflects the true will and confidence of the people of Kenya in democracy. Without the rule of law, ladies and gentlemen, our democracy falls short of serving us as a people. The judiciary, which is our nation's foremost anchor of the rule of law, continues to grow in its capacity to authoritatively discharge its constitutional mandate and make justice a right of every Kenyan. To provide effective and efficient services to the people, we have enhanced resources available to the judiciary, promoted respect for its independence, and submitted to its authority in order to deepen our credentials as a nation guided by the rule of law. To complete this framework of institutions designed to safeguard and promote constitutionalism and the rule of law, our constitutional commissions and independent offices have evolved to discharge their mandate in accordance with the Constitution and in the most constructive manner in support of good governance. The IEBC, Commission for Revenue Allocation, the Salaries Remuneration Commission, among many, have lived up to their constitutional expectations and Kenyans' aspirations. Today, there is much to celebrate about the strides we have made for the last 6 decades. The democratic credentials of our political culture are solid and our institutional maturity beyond any doubt. Fellow countrymen and women, 60 years ago, we certainly were far from where we are today. The progress we have made is undeniable. Our peers at that time, nations like South Korea, Singapore, and Malaysia, have similarly made immense progress in democratic and institutional maturity. They have, however, made much more economic progress than we, and as a consequence, we are much more advanced today. They are much more advanced today than we are. The point at which we stand today is the culmination of the collective endeavor of our nation's founding generation and those that came after them. The vision which inspired their struggle and sacrifice was one of a united, free, democratic, and economically prosperous nation. They fought for true sovereignty, which envisioned political democracy and economic prosperity. Our forefathers made huge sacrifices to win for Kenya the freedom we celebrate today, and the generations that followed have made their contributions progressively to bring our state, society, and economy to what it is presently. We gather today to express our gratitude, celebrate their legacy, and contemplate our contribution to accelerating future progress. In our democratic and political journey, we have made tremendous sacrifices and progress, from a single party to multi-party, personality and ethnic parochialism to issue-based and national politics, from violence and intolerance discourse to orderly and peaceful elections. However, we have not made as much progress with our economy. Our savings as a percentage of GDP is dismal. The gap between the rich and the poor has not reduced. Many, especially young people, don't have jobs, and our revenues as a percentage of GDP remain low. Our generation must therefore take up the unfinished job of actualizing economic prosperity as our contribution to perfecting Kenya's national sovereignty. We owe this to those who made huge sacrifices to bestow on us a nation of promise. We owe it to one another, to the youth, women, children of Kenya, and to each and every one of us. The responsibility of our generation, beginning with this administration, is to make smart choices and necessary sacrifices, just as our forefathers and those who came after them did. And the choice is to match our economic progress with our democratic and political achievements. This is the assignment we took up on day one, the 13th of September 2022, and which we have been painstakingly undertaking for the past year. Our focus has been firmly about the ways and means to transform our economy, making the right decisions, necessary sacrifices, and smart choices to set Kenya on a path of economic renaissance. This transformation began with all of us as the people of Kenya making immense sacrifices and huge contributions together to pull back our country from the brink of debt distress. The greatness and patriotic devotion of the people of Kenya have been on display during the past year. Together, we have made the right choices, sometimes taken very difficult and painful decisions to steer Kenya back from the edge of a catastrophic cliff of debt distress and move our country in a new direction. There is every reason to believe that without serious sacrifices and hard work over the past year, the crises, threats, and challenges in the global economic and geopolitical environment confronting us would have overwhelmed us, as indeed it has many countries. We have had to make our contribution to the struggle for the nation's economic sovereignty. We have had to cut back significantly on expenditure and to defer the implementation of critical development programs to stabilize our economy. The policy measures required to mobilize necessary revenues have been difficult, but they were our only way and means of escape. Though painful, the sacrifices we have made, which would not only make our freedom fighters proud, are also absolutely necessary at a time as this and in situations that we find ourselves, and is the guarantee of our nation's economic stability. Proudly, these sacrifices have paid off. I can now confirm, without fear of any contradiction, that Kenya is safely out of the danger of debt distress and that our economy is on a stable footing. The economic indicators point to good news. Inflation is now 6.8%, down from a high of 9.2% a year ago. In the last 6 months, our GDP has grown at a rate of 5.4%, making Kenya the 29th fastest growing economy in the world, according to the World Bank. There is no question about it. What we have done together, the price we have paid together, and the sacrifices we have made together have rescued our country from an economic catastrophe. After navigating our ways out of the difficult and complicated debt situation, our second action is to accelerate economic progress, which is the cardinal assignment of our generation. Wazalendo wenzangu, our human capital, our innovative, smart working, professional labor force is probably the single most potent arsenal we have to drive our economic progress. Globally, Kenyans have excelled in semi-skilled, skilled, and professional occupations. Our expenditure on training, learning, and education in general is a most appropriate investment in the development of the human capital necessary in our economic progress. Recognizing this, we have increased the total allocation to our education sector by an additional 127 billion this year. Out of this, 46 billion will support the new university funding model that gives equal chance to every child in Kenya to acquire university education. An additional 9 billion to cover our TVET funding model and the hiring of an extra 2,000 tutors necessary for our TVET education. An additional 47 billion to enable TSC, Teacher Service Commission, hire 56,000 new teachers and other interventions, and 24 billion for junior secondary school and to support the construction of additional infrastructure. To cover the chronic classroom deficit in the city of Nairobi, we have undertaken to build 3,500 additional classrooms in the city of Nairobi, with the first 1 billion allocated in this year's budget. And we are going to work with all members of parliament to make sure that the city of Nairobi, the seat of government, and the pride of our nation does not leave any child behind when it comes to education. Agriculture, ladies and gentlemen, plays a central and pivotal role in our economy, contributing to food security, supplying raw materials for our agro-processing and value addition and manufacturing, for domestic and market and export markets, creating jobs and also creating wealth. Only specific, targeted and deliberate interventions will enhance our agricultural productivity and overall production. This began with the registration of farmers, provision of crop-specific fertilizers, reforms in the tea, coffee, sugarcane and edible oil sector, provisions of mobile dryers and other interventions underway across the nation so as to reduce the cost of food, which consumes 56% of household incomes, to reduce by half our food import bill, which today stands at Kenya shillings 500 billion, and also to increase our exports. Further, 400 fresh produce markets, including 20 in the city of Nairobi, 47 county aggregation industrial parks, as well as 6 special economic zones, are under various stages of implementation to enhance value addition, agro-processing and manufacturing, and also to stimulate economic growth in every part of Kenya. Economic productivity and general well-being are significantly hampered by a population that is prone to ill health. Individual and family medical expenditure drain household incomes and erode family savings, in many cases leading to financial ruin and destitution. Fellow countrymen, our universal health coverage plan seeks a paradigm shift in the provision of health care from curative to a largely preventive and promotive approach. Our radical